Rink Rats, what's going on? Hope you're all doing well. Andy Campbell here, ready for another conversation about the Chicago Blackhawks Season 6, Episode 4. How good is bad enough? What are we doing here, Blackhawks? I'm here with Sean Fitzgerald and the Bard. Sean, what's going on? How are you?
I am wonderful. Rocking a 47 Phillies hats tonight for the Fightin' Phils. The city of Philadelphia's got to be loving it. The Phillies lead the World Series. The Eagles are undefeated, and the Flyers aren't in last. So, oh, and the 76ers are okay. So, Philadelphia's a good town.
There you go. It is a good place, and they're obviously rocking and having a good time. Bardo, what's new in your world? Love the photograph behind you.
Not much. All good. Living the dream. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, Bardo's living the dream. We're living the dream. We're here to talk about Blackhawk hockey and the surprising Blackhawks, I guess you can say right now. They came out of the gate and no one really saw it coming. Isn't it funny how we're talking about a surprise team being a 500 team, 4-4-2? Chicago Blackhawks, they've dropped their last few games though, and that, unfortunately, being a fan is actually a good thing. The Chicago Blackhawks aren't that good, folks. We knew it was going to be a tough year. It's technically a tank year. But what's been going on? They're kind of in the middle of the pack, and they've been competing in these games. Bardo, what are you surprised about so far?
The record?
The record.
I mean, it's really that simple. But I think, I do like what I see from the coach. I think Richardson's really putting his brand of hockey on this team. I think he's establishing a culture, that's based around, accountability and hard work. This team plays for 60 minutes. They compete. So, they don't have the talent that most of the league has on their roster, but they make up for it with a strong work ethic, and that can get you somewhere. But hopefully, water will find its level and they'll lose some games and get themselves into, position for a high draft pick. But for now, this is what it is.
Yeah, is what it is. Shawnee, let's talk about Luke Richardson, as Bardo mentioned. I mean, there's definitely a change here. I mean, there's a difference in the way that they play. And they seem to believe they're going in the gray areas. You don't see as much perimeter play as you used to. A lot of gritty and dirty goals. What do you feel about Luke Richardson and that style, and how's it looking?
He's a competent NHL coach. The last 2 seasons prior to that, Jeremy Colleton was lost basically at the NHL level. He didn't know what he was doing. He didn't have superior talent, so his style and scheme didn't work. Richardson's plays a gritty style. He understands what his players need. He's got a lot of gritty guys. In part, trying to tank, they brought in the guys like Colin Blackwell, who are going to go do the dirty things in the corner. They got Sam Lafferty, who's similar to that. So they've got guys that kind of match his style. And I think he's a legitimate NHL coach who knows how to coach an aggressive PK unit where they're not, chasing the puck so much. They're more aggressive coming up front, challenging the shooter. And despite all of that, I think he's also he's got the respect of, I think, the veteran players is another thing. I think Richardson has earned the respect. I don't know if guys really wanted to play for Colleton, and I think that's why the effort maybe and the result wasn't there. I think on this team with Richardson, the effort's there, and the results. See, the early results for some guys that are shocking seem to be there.
Yeah, I mean it's way too early to speculate. What is going to happen with Luke Richardson through all this thing, but I don't know. I mean, you can tell just by the style and the hunger that the guys play with, that the team's playing with it. Is there a possibility that he survives this rebuild? I mean, maybe we are getting way ahead by thinking about that. But Bardo, do you think that's actually realistic in any way, shape, or form?
I think it's way too early to tell. And I think if you go and look, at what the Rangers did when they brought in David Quinn at the time, I mean, he was basically there to manage the rebuild. And they did compete a little bit as they went into, year 2 or year 3 of his tenure. But, at the same time, I think when they were ready to win, they knew and they saw that he just really did not have the X's and O's to match wits against, some of the best coaches in the, the Trotzes of the world. Obviously he's no longer coaching, but at the time. So we'll see. And I mean, look, we're getting off the tangent, but you can debate on Gerard Gallant and him as an X's and O's coach. I think he's terrible, but yeah, I mean, I think it's way too early to tell, but I think what you're seeing now is a guy who can almost, put a work ethic and put some sort of a culture in between, or a foundation, if you will, for the young talent that's going to be bubbling up over the next several years.
Right. No, I think that's a good call. I like it. It is way too early. I mean, we can, try to forecast and figure out the whole thing right now, but will they go with a proven coach? How long is the rebuild going to take? But, that said, what we kind of agreed on here, Luke Richardson's been great. I mean, I think it's, was I a little fearful early that the Hawks are winning too much? Maybe, maybe not. But at the same time, the brand of hockey and the hockey games have been entertaining. The Blackhawks have been in games and they haven't been winning them, which is actually more important than anything else.
It's kind of what you want.
It's
exactly what you
want. It's what I call a tank win. They play hard. They play hard for 60 minutes and they lose.
That's right.
And it's a close game and it's entertaining. That's called a tank win.
Tank win. Sean has coined that phrase.
Tank win.
So if you look up and down the Blackhawks roster right now, I mean, Patrick Kane is doing his thing. He's got 10 points in 10 games. Taves is doing just fine. Domi, is contributing. He's obviously not shying away from the play, throwing fisticuffs every now and then. Let's talk about a couple of surprise players, and I'd like each of you to mention one guy who's a surprise player that you feel has just kind of stepped it up throughout the first 10 games here, and you're like, okay, maybe they have something here. Maybe this is someone they want to hold on to. Through the rebuild. We're going to start with Sean. I'm putting you on the spot. Give me a surprise Blackhawk player so far.
Okay, so I'll give you two, actually, because one, I don't know if it just...
You're going to steal my player?
I'm not going to steal yours. Because Jonathan Taves is a surprise to me. I saw a stat the other day. I know we're probably not going to hold on to him. That's why I'm going to give you two. But Jonathan Taves took 33 games to score 4 goals last year. He scored 6 in 10 this season. So that's a surprise. And people are, I engage the Twitter masses and they think he could be appealing to a contender. So we'll see. So that's a surprise to me. Yep. And then I'm going to go with Taylor Radish as my surprise.
Tell me more.
I mean, Radish has got 3 goals, 3 assists. He's played on some middle top 6 minutes. There wasn't really much of a book on Taylor Radish because he didn't really get to play much in Tampa due to the talent level of that team. Highly drafted guy. I think he was a first or second rounder. They got him in the Brandon Hagel deal. He's only cost them $750,000. He's not been a healthy scratch like the other guy who came over in Boris Kachuk. And I think he can score in this league. So hopefully he's somebody that maybe you can hang around. Maybe he's he moves down when you get good down the line to like a third line scorer. But yeah, Taylor Radish would be my surprise.
Got it. I like it. I think it's a good call. And as you notice, folks, I did spell Taylor Radish wrong. On the bottom, there's actually 2 D's in Taylor Radish. There's 2 O's in Goose, boys.
No. There's 2 O's in Goose.
So let's clear that up. Sean is not great with pronunciation. I'm just not good at spelling. So we complement each other very well.
Exactly.
Bardo, surprise players thus far in the Hawks season. Who you got?
I have 2, but I don't want to steal one of yours, but I'm going to go. So I'm going to take one. And I'm going to say Philip Roos.
Ooh. Okay.
I think, he's a young kid who wasn't drafted, but, he has a little bit of experience playing overseas. And he's come over and he's actually played pretty well. He's responsible and he's only 23. Maybe, just maybe, he might be somebody who can be here long term. And if you don't say my second one, I will say it.
You can go. Well, I'm going to say, let me just comment on Roos real quick. I like that pick. Roos has played 6 games, folks. He's got 1 point. He's got an assist, and he's +1. If you're +1 on the Chicago Blackhawks and you're a defenseman, on this year's team if that continues and he stays he won't end the season in the plus. I think that's
probably not
very nice, but or just not
defenseman will.
practical. No Blackhawk defenseman will finish in the plus this year, but it is very intriguing. So you can go with the next one. I'll get creative with another surprise player. Go for it.
So my second one is Kurashev.
Yeah.
And, we've seen ability from him, but I think he's kind of taken it up another level, and that you could maybe see him maybe as a second line player, but probably more likely a third line player. He's, maybe he's kind of like, and I don't think you compare the talent, but maybe you can a little bit, is Versteeg. Versteeg, we always call this the top 9 player, but he kind of reminds me of him. He's kind of like a sneaky good player, always seems to be in the right spot. I mean, he's definitely in the minus. I want to say he's a -6, but he's been scoring and he's been creative. So, we knew he had ability, but now I think he's kind of getting more playing time in that, middle 6, if you will. So I kind of like him, and he's still fairly young too.
He's only
he's a guy you probably don't keep long term. If you're not going to pay him, you're probably going to trade him. But I think you're probably finding, maybe you might get something for him.
Yeah, I don't know with Kurashev. I mean, 23 years old. He's always just kind of been around. I mean, he's like moss on a tree. It's just kind of like there. But this year, I agree with you. You're seeing a lot more from him. The other thing too is I don't think he would be expensive to keep. If you do extend him. So, I mean, I don't know. You can listen to offers, but I mean, if if people are just offering you a 4th or a 5th or even a 3rd or something of that fabric, you're better off keeping Kurashev.
Yep.
And keeping him through the rebuild. And I don't know. I mean, there's some people on the Twitter world is already going. Our buddy Jay Zawoski's already going extend Kurashev. Now, okay. I mean,
all right, Jay. Yeah,
you're right. If that's right, I mean, that's right there with the Caps fans saying extend Strome right now. But
oh my goodness,
I
knew we couldn't go a podcast without Strome.
No, we will never go a podcast without me talking about Dylan Strome negatively. That's just the way that it's going to go. But I like that. Kurashev was going to be my pick.
That's who I knew you were going to pick. That's why I went the other direction.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to go surprise Hawk player. I guess we're doing 2, and I actually think, oddly enough, there have been quite a few Blackhawk players that are surprising so far. But the guy that I'm going to go with is Jason Dickinson. I think that Jason Dickinson. Now, folks, if you're wondering, where did we get that guy again? Those of you that decided to sell your season tickets or just tune out the Hawks this year, and I certainly we understand if you do. Jason Dickinson was acquired right at the beginning of the season for Riley Stillman. And the Blackhawks got Jason Dickinson and a 2nd-round pick for Riley Stillman. And Dickinson plays hard. He plays really hard. I mean, he's got 3 goals, 3 assists in 8 games. Mm-hmm. He's never going to be much more than, a grinding 3rd or 4th line player in the NHL at the same time. He's been taking some faceoffs. He's got 50% in the dot. And he seems to fill a rebuild role for Luke Richardson. I mean, it's a Luke Richardson branded type player.
And he could, if somehow Kyle Davidson flips him at the deadline, you get another asset for him. That'd be huge.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of the deadline, the interesting thing is when we all saw the signings of Anastasiou and Domi, we said, 1-year deals, it's smart, business decision, because then you can flip them at the deadline for whatever. They're playing really well. Yeah. So to me, it's like if Brandon Hagel, and they're still fairly young, I think. I don't remember the age on them, but
Domi's 27 and Nice to See You is 28.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I like
old, but they're not also terribly young either. But these are guys that are playing 1st, 2nd line minutes, but they're probably 3rd line players on cup contenders. So could you actually, if they're at the 15 to 20 goal mark by the time the deadline shows up, maybe just maybe you might get something more than you think.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I mean, there's definitely some intrigue. I mean, I don't, and to your point, Bardo, I mean, if these guys do pretty well early and they pad their stats a little bit, as long as the Blackhawks are losing, the better they do, the better off for everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't really, you know, there's really nothing lost in that scenario. I'm going to mention one more player who I'm surprised with, but I do feel that he might let us down at some point, and that's Jake McCabe. I think he's been good.
Yeah,
he's been really good. You know, he's in the positive. He's +3. He's taking care of the puck. He's taking care of his own end. He's not making a whole lot of careless mistakes. And he is a $4 million defenseman. Is he playing like a $4 million a year defenseman? Maybe not yet. But I'm feeling a little bit better about him being back there. Is he tradable? Probably not. He still has 2 more years at $4 million. This is another Stan Bowman desperation. I'm feeling the heat of my job signing to go along with the Seth Jones trade. And while Seth Jones has been out of the lineup and he's been hurt, and it sounds like he's going to be out for a little while. It does give other guys opportunities to get some minutes and some ice time. And you don't need to worry about Seth Jones being out there right now, folks, because he's not going anywhere. He will be around for a long, long time.
Will we have to keep? Will the Blackhawks have to keep Caleb Jones for the duration of Seth's contract? Is what I want to know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they split up the Doc brothers, so I
don't think.
Yeah, I really don't think that. And again, and maybe that's a pretty good transition. You know, to our next point, and one of the things, Sean, that you wanted to talk about, and that is Kyle Davidson has made a couple recent moves of players that we actually and a lot of people thought would be pretty decent prospects for the Chicago Blackhawks. And I'll let you roll with it, Shawnee. Bodan and Barrett gone. What happened?
So I think Kyle Davidson, obviously, the interim tag was on him for a little bit last year. Then he was named the full-time general manager, and he had the rest of that season to kind of assess just what the whole organization is in terms of his philosophy.
Right.
I think the Bodan move is twofold. So one, obviously based on the return, I don't think that many organizations thought highly of Nicholas Bodan, and he wasn't going to get his opportunity to play with Chicago. He had his 21-game run at some point, but I don't think he was going to be a long-term fixture. I also think that the move was future thinking in that, so when Korchinski's ready to come and play, I think he's 18 or 19, they're going to need spots for him in the A. Like, he's going to have to spend some time in Rockford. So you don't want Nicholas Bodan on your blue line taking up space for him in the future, but also guys like Isaac Phillips, Jacob, I can't think of his name.
Galvis.
Yeah.
Right. And then you're going to need, if Nolan Allen's going to come play at the A at some point, Ray's favorite punching bag, Nolan Allen. So you're going to need spots for those guys to play at the A. So I think that's why they moved him.
Yeah. I was going to say, I think it was time, and you know, he had his chances and just never. And that's partly on Stan because he just never really developed, and he may never develop into anything anywhere. But I mean, now it's like there's so many new defensemen in this organization. You know, Ethan Del Maestro, whatever his name is, he's another one. So I mean, there are guys that have just jumped him in terms of upside. You know, in the organization. So I think it's also a numbers game. Regula, all these guys have just jumped them. So,
well, and I just also I do like Kyle Davidson's approach to this, and Evan Barrett. It was a great player at Penn State. I think 3rd round pick for the Blackhawks. I recall. I can't remember the year, but he never really, you know, he was always going to be projected as a 3rd or 4th liner at best, and. You know, and if you can't crack the Blackhawks lineup the way that they're assembled right now, I think it's time for you to start thinking about going to another organization and maybe trying to see if you can, you know, finally make your breakthrough, but it's not going to happen with the club that you're at. What I do really
figure out if you're going to work at Delta Sonic or not, because, you know, a lot of guys work at car washes afterwards, as we established last podcast.
And like we've said all the time, it doesn't make you a bad person.
No,
it's just kind of the way that it works out sometimes. But what I do like about Kyle Davidson is he's just saying, look, these weren't my guys. You know, I've got a different plan. And so, you know, it's probably in their best interest to be elsewhere. And obviously we don't know how Barrett and Bodan spoke for it, you know, or felt about it, but I'm sure or I'm not sure, but I would guess that they're probably like, okay, good, fresh start, sounds pretty good.
Well, I mean, to me, I think the sign of a good GM is they admit mistakes, and quite frankly, Kyle's too new to make his own mistakes, but I think he's getting rid of some of the other trash that was already, made prior to it, and it's also sticking with guys for how long? I mean, you can't stick with these guys forever.
Can't do
it. At this point, it's like time to hit the reset button.
Yep. So now,
and I forgot.
Sorry,
Vlasic too. Vlasic was also ahead of Bodan, I think, in the depth chart.
Yes, and Vlasic has yet to see the ice. He's been out, and
he was hurt, or he's played. He's had 5 games in Rockford this year.
But I think we will see him with the club again, with the big club at some point this year. I think that much we know. So here's the surprise deal on the Hawks right now, folks, is that I don't think anyone expected in the 8-team Central Division right now for the Hawks to be sitting 4th 10 games into their season. However, the Colorado Avalanche are behind him. That's going to end at some point. Nashville's behind him. That's going to end at some point. St. Louis has had a very slow start. They will leapfrog the Blackhawks. The only team that might not leapfrog the Blackhawks this year are the lonely Arizona Coyotes that somehow are still in Phoenix, getting changed in temporary dressing rooms as professional athletes.
Don't you mean the Arizona State Coyotes?
Yeah, the Arizona State Coyotes, to accommodate Gary Bettman's vision of a failed project in Arizona that he is not just willing to admit to the general public that it's just not going to work in that state, which is really
speaking of not admitting your mistakes.
Right. So the Blackhawks they're gonna slip, they're gonna fall. How far? We're hoping far enough. I mean, I think the issue right now, folks, is we're kind of in the tank world right now. Ottawa's had a slow start; they'll get out of it. Columbus is 3-7, which I think a lot of people with them signing Johnny Gaudreau thought that they would come out of the gates a little bit stronger. The teams that you need to worry about in the lottery, I think, with the Blackhawks, I think Montreal is going to fade a little bit despite their hot pick. Arizona might finish beneath the Blackhawks. San Jose is miserable. I think Anaheim will pick it up a little bit. Seattle will fade, even though they've had a hot start. Who else am I forgetting, boys? I can't believe we're thinking about normally
the Flyers.
The Flyers. A few years ago, we talked about the Hawks as, who's going to compete with them for the cup? And now we're saying, who could they possibly get beat out for a lottery pick?
Well, remember about Anaheim, though, Drysdale's out for the year.
Yep.
So that's going to hurt them. You're talking about a top-line defenseman for them.
Yeah. So that's no good. So there's that. At the same time, folks, I mean, I think that, hopefully the ping pong balls bounce the right way. And, they end up, in a pretty good position to have a lottery pick. Quick sidebar on Lucas Reichel. Lucas Reichel is in Rockford, 10 points in 7 games. He's doing what he should be doing down there, and that's a good sign.
He's dominating he's supposed to be.
He should dominate the AHL this year, keep him there to continue to build his confidence. And then towards the end of the season, when you start making trades at the deadline and stuff like that, I have a feeling you will see him up and getting some action with the Hawks. Mm-hmm. So, the other
he's
thing
still
that
only 20 years old.
Yeah, he's a baby.
Yeah, he's a kid.
Yeah.
He's a kid. They're doing the right things with him right now. They're not rushing him. They're doing the right things. So what I want to do quickly, folks, is just touch base on, a lot of people are saying, well, why do we want the Hawks to do so poorly? What is worth tanking over? Before we do that, a quick shout out to our sponsors that I completely neglected today. Puckhockey.com, PUCKHCKY.com, all in caps. Use discount code THERINK in all caps, 10% off. $100 gives you a free t-shirt. Go check it out. So now that we've mentioned that, we want to talk about the top 3 potential picks in the NHL draft. And we want to talk about, why is everybody buzzing and saying the Hawks need to, tank and get one of these guys. There are 3 players that are going to be draft eligible in the June 2023 entry draft that are considered generational talents. Okay? Those are, and as you all have heard of, Conor Bedard. He's a stud. He is with the Regina Pats in the WHL, and so far this season, he's within 15 games played, 29 points, 13 goals, 16 assists. That's real good stuff. Adam Fantilli at the University of Michigan has played 8 games at the University of Michigan, is leading the country in scoring right now, and has 18 points as a freshman. And he's completely off his trolley. And those of you that have seen clips of this guy, it's real, folks. It's real. Despite those out there that think that NCAA hockey is a joke, blah, blah, blah. That dude on Twitter that forever. I hope he's enjoying himself being miserable. And then Matvey Michkov is the other one. Now, he's the one I'm not sure people know as much about. Okay, he is currently in St. Petersburg of the KHL. They've it says statistics available. What's that?
Not St. Petersburg, Florida.
Not St. Petersburg, Florida. Don't know if their season started. Statistics unavailable is what it says. He's not that big. I mean, he's 5'8", barely 150 pounds, and doesn't.
The Athletic has him listed at 5'10".
Oh, well, he doesn't turn. He doesn't turn 18 until December. So, fellas, how important is it to get in the top 3 in this draft? Bardo, what do you think?
Very important. I mean, if you have franchise players, I mean, to me, as I've said, you build it down the middle, you build it with defensemen. And, to me, excuse me, Fantilli's the guy I've been on for a long time, more so than Bedard. I mean, I understand Bedard's skill, but 5'8", how big is he? 5'7", 5'8"?
Not very big.
They're saying 5'10".
You're playing center at the NHL level that big? I'm sorry. I just don't see. I don't want to deal with that. So
well, he's still 17. I mean, he's not even 18 until July 17th. So
I mean, is he going to grow an inch more?
Well, I don't know. I mean, or is this one of those where, people were saying these things about Patrick Kane. They were.
I get that, but Kane came in as a winger.
Yeah.
This if you're telling me this kid's going to be a wing, I don't want to draft him. And I understand Kane, but they also had Taves at that time. Or they ended up getting Taves. There's no guarantee that that's going to happen again. You're asking lightning to strike twice. So to me, I mean, if I have a chance to get the big skilled center who's dominating college hockey, I'm taking him. Sorry.
That's the guy you want.
I
so then
love this kid.
Are you secretly hoping then that the Hawks fall to 2? Because
I would take him at 1 and not even blink.
Yeah, I mean, I do think publicly right now, all people are trending towards Bedard.
Yeah, I know because of his ridiculous. He's got no question about it. He's got Patrick Kane or even better skill.
Yeah.
But if he is going to be a center, I don't want him.
Okay.
And I don't like drafting wings that high either. So this day and age, center.
If the Phoenix Coyotes get the first overall pick and the Blackhawks get second, you're sitting on the edge of your seat saying, "Just please take Bedard." I want
100%.
Yeah, or the Arizona can screw it up and take Michkov.
Yeah,
and have to wait, and maybe by the time they get a new arena, hopefully in a different city, Michkov will come over from Russia.
Yep,
that's the big thing on Michkov is with the KHL. Like I think Gates said it on the last podcast or something. You don't know when they're going to come over because they have to play out their KHL contract before they can come over.
Well, there's that, and I mean, there's also a lot going on right now in our political climate, and so I don't, I hope people don't take this the wrong way, but maybe there is, a little bit of an extra hesitation, or maybe we will see more of hesitation in the NHL and the draft, down the road in this spring, if the Russia-Ukraine conflict is still going on, is that going to adversely affect some of the people that are picked? It's possible. I mean, there are other players. Braden Yeager is a very good player playing in Moose Jaw right now. He's a center. He's 6 feet tall. There's another center left wing, Leo Carlson, that's supposed to be in the top 5. I mean, he's supposed to be great. So I mean, it's a pretty target rich NHL draft. But
environment.
The Mitchkov is the question mark. He's definitely the question mark of these top three that everyone's talking about.
Yeah.
What I really like about Fantilli, and to your point, Bardo, about it, this kid's hungry. I mean, if you watch him play, he plays with an edge and he plays with purpose. He plays angry. He wants the puck at all times. He doesn't back down from physical play. I mean, I think I'm trying to think of an NHL equivalent of his right now.
Well, you know what it is. I'll tell you exactly what it is. I mean, it's basically he's a more aggressive, or a Messier. I mean, he's a Messier Taves type player. I mean, he's a big center, strong center who's going to mix it up physically, and has that will to win. And that's something to me. Oof, I'd want that in 2 seconds. I'm telling you, have him anchor the franchise. Absolutely.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, if you could do the 2006 draft over again, Taves would go number 1 overall. There's no question.
100%.
Yeah.
What were you going to say, Sean?
And do yourselves a favor when you get a chance. Go to HockeyDB and look at Fantilli's picture. It is priceless.
Oh, his eyes are just lit up, man.
Yeah. And
he played with his hair on fire, as they say.
I would love to get Ray's take on it because I know Ray was pretty involved with the Chicago Steel there for a while, and Fantilli played the last 2 seasons with the Steel before going to Michigan. So I'd love to get Ray's take on Fantilli.
Yeah, I have a feeling that Ray's a big fan.
Yeah, and let me throw this caveat out there. I wouldn't be upset if they got Bedard, but God, I fucking love Fantilli. I really do. I've watched this kid so much. He is so good.
Adam Fantilli in his HockeyDB page for all of you that can see the screen right now.
6'2" and 191 right now.
Yeah, he's a big kid.
Yeah.
He's a big boy, and then he's going to put some beef on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He could stay 6'2" and be fine.
Yeah. So the Michigan Wolverines are number 1 in the country again. It sounds like they've retooled and reloaded. Now, Frank Nazar sounds like he might be out for the season. The Blackhawks' 13th overall draft pick, which is really too bad. He's got a lower body injury that requires surgery, is what it sounds like, and he might be out for the season. Now,
it was his knee, I thought.
Oh, it was his knee? Okay, I'm sorry.
No.
But that's the same.
You just use the hockey terminology, lower body injury.
Yeah, lower body injury. But, so I think that all signs, hope that he has a good recovery. That might delay when he comes to camp and comes to the Blackhawks. I think all signs probably point to him going back to the University of Michigan for at least 1 full year after this year before you're ever going to see him, sign with the Blackhawks, and for good reason.
Yep.
It has to be that way. Now, for those of you knocking NCAA hockey, a lot of people love to do that out there for whatever reason. You can get injured doing anything. So, it's not being at Michigan that got him hurt. So anyway, really interesting stuff to talk about with those 3 generational talents. And I think it'll be more fun to follow them as the season progresses and the Hawks continue to decline, if you will. Sean, we talked right before about the goaltending situation in Chicago. And, you also, Bardo, you mentioned that, it was the goaltending a couple of years ago of Kevin Lankinen that made the Blackhawks seem better than they were. We've seen some very good goaltending performances already so far. Stalock's been pretty good. Mm-hmm. Soderblom in Buffalo the other night was lights out. Sean, talk about Arvid. What are we thinking? I mean, could this guy be something of the future?
He could be, yeah. He's 23 years old. He's a bigger type goalie, I believe. I think he's 6'3".
I think he's 6'3" also.
Yeah, 6'3". He free agent out of Sweden, 23. Yep. They signed him because they thought he could be potentially a goalie of the future. Now I know the plan was to keep him down in the A to get him regular starts. He's only been down there. He was down there last year, kind of sharing time with the cavalcade of stars we had at goalie last season. And now, unfortunately, due to the injuries to Mrazek and Stalock, Soderblom's had to play at the NHL, or Soderblom has to play at the NHL level, and he's looked pretty good in his last 2 starts.
Yeah,
nice. 2 starts, he stopped 41 of 45, including 14 of 16 high danger chances against Buffalo on Saturday. and then he made 28 to 30 saves on Tuesday, replacing Stalock against the Islanders. So I'm excited. I was increasingly pessimistic about the goaltender situation a couple podcasts ago.
Yeah.
I really thought he was the only prospect goalie they had in the system. Drew Comesso still hasn't signed. Probably going to sign after this year at BU, but still, he's going to need time in the A. So I'm excited about Soderblom. That's probably one of the bright spots on like a bad tanking team is if you have to go to one of your prospect goalies and give him some run, you're afforded that, and he can learn at the NHL level. It's not ideal, but it'll work.
Yep. Yeah, I would agree. So we'll see how he does. We'll see how it moves forward. Bardo, any other thoughts about Soderblom?
No, I have liked what I've seen so far. He looks definitely better than what I think we saw him very briefly last year. So he's certainly improved his game a little bit. So we'll see. I mean, it's, he's getting forced into action. So, who they signed to be now the backup, Dylan Wells. It's like a 2-way contract.
He's an AHL goalie, basically. And
that's bad. Yeah. So it's like him or, they pull Scott Darling from the broadcast booth or whatever. But yeah. But I mean, look, the goaltending is only going to take you so far because the team in front of him is just, trash.
Too bad. Yeah. Well, lastly, maybe we could just touch base. New broadcast team, new look in the booth. How's everyone feeling about how the Hawks are doing in that realm? Eddie O's gone. Pat Foley's gone. Scott Darling is in between periods, making some good comments. He seems like a good guy. I don't know. I don't really feel one way or the other about Scott Darling and that whole thing. Was it Foster, the guy who's doing Pat Foley, his job? He seems okay.
Yeah, he seems okay. It's so hard to get used to it when you're used to one thing your whole life. But I do
like his.
Go ahead,
Marno.
No, I was gonna say I don't really love Patrick Sharp. I think he's a little too
dry.
A little dry.
Yeah.
I never really liked Troy Murray. I think he's better for radio. I don't really love him for television. I think it's unfortunate with Burish because I actually think he was really good in his role. I wish they would welcome him back, but maybe he was too close to the situation that happened in 2010. But yeah, I mean, that's just the situation that they're in right now. There's just not a lot of options. So
yeah, no, and I think we all can agree that Colby Cohen having a microphone is a mistake. He's pretty bad.
He's really bad. Horrendous.
He's just
terrible.
He seems like that kid in the classroom that just waits for his turn to talk and doesn't listen to anybody and then just says nothing of value.
Yeah.
Who's been on? Has it been? Chelios' daughter? I'm sorry, I can't think of her name. What's her first name?
Kaylee.
This is really bad. Kaylee Chelios. Was she on the radio with
Weidman?
Weidman. Yeah, I was listening to the game on the radio, and it was him and a woman broadcaster who was really good. And I don't know if it was Kaylee Chelios or if it was God, I'm so bad right now.
I can't remember.
What's her name? She played for Team USA, and the Blackhawks brought her in the organization. She'd done some games.
Kendall Coyne, yeah.
Kendall Coyne. Yeah, I wonder if it was Kendall Coyne.
Yeah.
But whoever it was, they were doing a heck of a job with John Weideman on the radio when I caught some of the game on the radio.
Oh, nice.
Weideman's great. Weideman is really good.
Yeah, John Weideman's always been good. Maybe they'll have him on TV every now and then. But
I know they had said that he wasn't going to be just limited to the radio booth this year. So here, one other thing about like Eddie O not being back, when the Kraken were there, they didn't do anything for Eddie O.
Yeah, that was a miss. That was a real big
Was that a miss or was that intentional? Because
I don't know. I mean, there's two people that know what happened with Eddie Olczyk's departure, and that's, well, not two people, but I guess two facets. That's the management team and that's Eddie O, and neither one of them have really commented on him publicly, whatever the disagreements are. I hope Eddie doesn't ever like jump on Spit and Chicklets and start telling tales, or he just doesn't seem like that kind of a guy. I'm glad that it's private. Who knows? I mean, maybe Eddie was like, "Don't do anything." I don't know. Who knows? I don't know if it was just oversight, or I hope it wasn't intentional. It's easy to point fingers and say, "I can't believe this didn't happen," or "We can't believe it didn't happen," but we don't know. I mean, it is, though, would have liked to see him be celebrated. And
I'm just trying to figure out who could be somebody who would work well as like another color commentator who would be at least entertaining. I just find Sharp to be, he
is very dry.
Right. I mean,
and Colby Cohen was just talking because he was filling the void, and it was just so excruciating.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of somebody who was like a former Blackhawk that had like a personality, and it's like, and to me, like Burrish was such the perfect guy. I mean, he was great.
Yeah, Burrish was great.
We already mentioned Chris Versteeg in here once. He wouldn't be too bad either.
Yeah, he just has to watch his mouth.
Yeah, he tends to.
I mean, I thought Andrew Shaw was a guy who was a talker, but I thought he was terrible in an analyst role. He was awful in the studio.
He was,
and he was like a deer in headlights.
Yeah, he wasn't very good. Maybe, and obviously Brian Campbell wouldn't be able to fill that role because he's special assistant Cal Davidson, but his runs on TV, I think before they were NBC Sports Chicago or whatever, he was pretty good in the studio. But I don't think he'll be able to fill it.
No,
maybe just hire Bill Walton. Just get Bill Walton.
Yeah.
Oh, God, jeez.
Just spice it up.
Yeah. Now, last point of the night, and Sean, you mentioned this. It's been a year, since all of that information came out with Kyle Beach and the Blackhawks handling of sexual assault in 2010. And if those of you that have paid attention to the Blackhawks for a number of years, you will recall this time last year, this being the news in hockey. Was the Blackhawks mishandling of it. And it led to the dismissal of Stan Bowman. It led to the dismissal of Coach Quenneville. And then we are almost also on the 1 year anniversary of Jeremy Colleton getting fired. That was performance-based. Or lack of performance-based. So I guess that poses the question, and Sean, since you brought this up, I'll start with you. Are the Blackhawks in a better place as an organization?
I hope so. Obviously, there's been, I think Danny and Jamie Faulkner understand the gravity of the situation. I really do. I think after they, Rocky blundered their town hall when he was questioned about it. I think Danny.
That was too bad.
Danny and Jamie. I haven't had the opportunity to listen to it yet, but I know Pat Boyle had an interview with them about just all the changes they've made. I know they've been promoting, women within the organization. I think Danny and Jamie Faulkner seriously regret what happened, and they're trying to make right by it. So I think that's a good thing. I don't know. We kind of talked about Burrish, and like you mentioned that. I don't know how guys like Patrick Sharp, Marian Hossa, and those guys came away like completely unscathed from 2010. Like they were there, and there wasn't really much interaction about that. So I'm just curious about how that was and why they got a pass and things like that. But overall, I think things have changed, and I think if hopefully this doesn't happen again, like we've seen with Hockey Canada now, that I think their whole board resigned, I believe, in the wake of the scandal.
Well, Hockey Canada is in need of a major overhaul right now. And Bardo, your thoughts on the Blackhawks cultural changes? It's been a little over a year since this all went down.
Yeah, and I actually recall back we were talking about it over a year ago, and we said that time would be one of the things to help sort of get away from this. Obviously, there's going to be changes and sticking with the changes and living up to it, et cetera. But then, time was going to tick away and hopefully that will, get us further away from that situation. So, I mean, it's hard to say what's changed. We're all on the outside looking in. So, you hope that just, they keep going in this direction where there's no other incidents and that's it. That's it. So, and we could focus on hockey and not this crap. So,
yeah, no, I agree. I will say, I do think the Blackhawks are in a better place. I like Danny Wirtz. I do.
I do too.
I like Danny Wirtz. I like Jamie Faulkner. I like their transparency. They've become very transparent as key figureheads of running a professional sports organization, and they're very adamant about the fact of we're going to do things right. When we're not doing things right, we're going to be accountable for it. We're going to own it. We're going to make sure we're better. And I think that's all you can expect. That's all you can ask out of a professional organization.
I'm still to this day, though, bothered by the Rocky Wirtz thing. It's like he made this major heel turn.
Yeah.
It's too bad. Yeah, it's too bad because the guy was so beloved when he took over for his father. And
he was the best owner in Chicago.
Holy
cow,
by far.
Yeah.
And then, the praise that he got. And then all of a sudden, it's like the guy just, to use a wrestling term, it was a major heel turn. So,
yeah.
So
I think his pants were just too high.
Yep. That whole incident was it was a shame. It really was. And I certainly think that had Danny had the floor alone, it would have been very different.
Danny and Jamie should have handled that whole thing, and it would have been the PR would have been completely different. It would have been a positive story,
right? But I think Danny Wirtz is a 21st century personality. I think he gets it.
Mm-hmm.
He seems just more in tune with modern world and modern life things. He's at a good age to be doing this.
He knows how to read the room.
knows how to read the room. He instilled faith in Kyle Davidson right now. Kyle Davidson is doing a good job. Now, will Kyle Davidson continue to do a good job? Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
But to this point, Kyle Davidson has been a great pick. I think so.
Yes.
You cannot disagree with the moves Kyle Davidson has made. He has been fantastic.
And he's had a plan. He told you what the plan was, and he's sticking to it.
So this is how it's going to go, folks.
Yeah.
Right. This is how it's going to go. This is how I'm going to build it. This is the profile I'm looking for. These are the people I'm looking for. These are the voices I want in the room. Everything. And I think he's, unfortunately, I mean, maybe I'm just reading too much into it.
No.
I don't think he's Stan Bowman. Unfortunately, was just arrogant because of his last name. Kyle Davidson, until he was promoted or until he took over, nobody knew who he was in the organization. Nobody. Mm-hmm. So he had anonymity. We don't know what decisions we are part of, but now his stamp is on this organization. And going forward, he's going to be the focal point of what happens. So I'm interested to see what he does. And I, like you guys have said, I'm on board with everything he's done. We've been saying as the rink as a whole that the rebuild needed to happen several years prior.
Sure.
And he's like, yep, this is what I need to do. This is what it's far too long. We're going to upgrade our analytics department because we used to be the front runner in analytics.
Mm-hmm.
In a commercial for that Pat Boyle interview, Jamie Faulkner had kind of mentioned the analytics department and the people they brought in to analyze what they're looking for, because ultimately sports is about boiling everything down to the number, whatever number you deem the value for your players and what you're looking for. So I'm excited.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Early happy birthday, Sean, from Riley.
Thank you.
Riley, who's your favorite Blackhawk?
Like Blackhawks player?
Yeah.
Patrick Kane.
There you go.
Philip Bruce.
All right, good night, buddy. No, I agree with you, Shawnee. Happy early birthday. And
thank you.
If you just look back at Kyle Davidson so far, Kyle Davidson's timeline, it began, with the Brandon Hagel trade, which was fantastic. It moved into the summer, very unpopular moves, including the trading of Alex DeBrincat.
Mm-hmm.
Again, stockpiled 3 first-round draft picks after that. And then the juice just keeps on going. But those little things, like getting second rounder plus a player who's performing very well for someone like Riley Stillman, letting go of Beaudin and the others. I mean, it's just he's on his game. I hope it sticks. I really hope it does.
Getting any value from Alex Nylander. Sam Lafferty's a productive player on this team. And if they can flip him for something else, he wins that trade even more.
Yep. So, well, fellas, it's been a slice as always. I think it's a good time to declare victory for the evening. Folks, we will be back. And if you are stale on the Blackhawks, and it might just happen because they might become very uninteresting until the new year when the trade deadline starts picking up, we're going to be back and we're going to go around the league with a lot of stuff. Mm-hmm. All right, we're going to break down some teams, look at some other divisions. We're going to keep you entertained through the eyes of the NHL.
And give us some topics. You want us to debate something historical, give us something fun. We could have fun with it. Join us in the chat, be a part of it.
Yeah. Best hair of all time, Ron Duguay. I mean, all sorts of fun stuff. We can
we can talk about, we could break down college teams, or we could watch college games and stuff like that.
We'll be busy. We got some ideas.
I'm itching to use my ESPN Plus, so
it's a good program.
I don't want to just wake up and watch bad football on Sunday mornings.
Can't say I blame you there.
With ESPN Plus.
All right, folks. Thanks very much for tuning in tonight. Those of you that did. I'm Andy Campbell on behalf of Sean Fitzgerald and the Bard, Andrew Bard. Thanks for listening tonight. We will be back soon with some more Blackhawk coverage and some more thoughts on the NHL. Take care and have a good one.
And happy birthday, Shawnee.
Happy birthday, John.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.